All right, so in this video, we are going to go over just the interface. Do not stress out. We are not going to have to memorize every single thing, but you may notice like there's definitely some fields, some areas that you want to remember and how to configure it so that you can find what you're looking for. So this is just a real quick overview. So up at the top, um, up at the way top, we have, of course, our standard program menus. And the important one with this is under Windows, more than, the ones that we're going to use the most up here is composition, layers, new, which all these subs are in here. Effects we're going to access someplace else, but you can see I can access them here. And window. There'll be some things in animation, but once again, some of this stuff we'll be able to access outside. Each one of yours may look a little different depending on which version of After Effects and if you have any plugins or anything like that installed. The windows is when we look for things. If we can't find them, we go here. Like, oh man, I can't find my character tools, or then I would click it here and then I'd have access to them. Oh man, I can't find, whatever I'm looking for, like audio, boop, and then it would pop up here. And then we say, oh wait, I don't need audio, and you turn it off. So that's how you would be able to access that. Up at the top, I have my tools that I use to create and manipulate whatever is in my composition. The home tool just pulls up this first menu. So if you're like, oh man, what was that program? Or I want to open up another one. Or I want to start looking, weren't there some tutorials? Now remember, you can always go in and change to learn, which will pull up those, but that pulls that first pop-up screen. What you're going to use the most is this guy, the selection tool and the hand tool. Now, the shortcut, anytime you see them, those little parentheses, are the keyboard shortcuts. So V is for the selection tool. H is for the hand tool. But I can also hold down my space bar and left mouse, and then I can move. This isn't moving. This is a screen. This is not an object. This is a representation of what my video is going to be in my video in the area that it would show. And then if I use my mouse scroller and zoom back, this is all outer area. So I could have things flying in and out of this area, but when we shoot and we render the video, this is the area, the only thing that you're going to see. So, but I can use spacebar, so I don't have to use H, and that way I can keep it on my selection tool and just hold that down. Zoom, I can do that as well, which is Z, but I can also use my mouse roller to zoom in and out. No big whoop. Some of these we'll go over later. These have to do with having 3D cameras and stuff like that, which we haven't gotten into yet. And once I have an object, I can, here's my rotation tool, which would make this more like I could use this to translate and move it around. This would be moving the anchor point or the pivot point, and that'll make more sense later. This is how we make shapes. We can use shapes to animate them or mask, and motion graphics has a lot of those. So this is, anytime you said itty bitty thing on the bottom right corner, you can see that it gives me different options. And then when I click on this, what do I want to make the shape? What color? Does it have a stroke and outline? Is there a Bezier curve that I can adjust? So anytime I click on any of these, what you're going to notice is that this changes. So depending on what I have selected, this is going to change. These are the properties of whatever tool that I choose. So this draws shapes, but this draws shapes. And then we have our type tool, which once again, vertical type or horizontal type. Our paintbrush tool, don't get too excited. It's not like a paintbrush in Photoshop. It's cool, but that's not what it is. Cloning tool, eraser, and then rotoscoping, our brush, and the edge refine tool for it. Once again, we'll talk about what those are later. And then my puppet tool, which is a pin tool. So you can actually illustrate a character like a puppet and then animate it so that the arms and the legs and stuff move just 2D wise, which is really sweet. Let's go back to this guy. Over here is my project folder. When I start making effects, a second tab will come up so that when I select one of my layers, if it has an effect, the effects that are attached to that layer will show up in the effects folder. But right now, this is my project folder, and right now all I have in it is a, you can see is my composition, my empty composition. I could trash it if I wanted to. I can make a new composition so I can have multiple compositions in here. I could make folders to organize them. So if I like made a folder in here and I call this one compositions demo 1, and then I drag this guy into here, so I can, you're going to have lots eventually of things in here, and this will just make life easier for you. And I could always rename it. I could select what's in there or make a new comp from whatever selections I have. I can do stuff like that. Okay. We'll get into a lot of this stuff later. This is my view mode. So this is basically if I want to view my composition, if I have different things like shapes and stuff that are nested, I can see them inside of here. We'll get more tabs. And as we build things more complicated, you can go deeper and deeper inside of, let's say, that sandwich to see what each individual thing is doing and edit them separately. At the bottom, I have how am I viewing my movie, my composition. I can change its scale to fit this window, or I can drop it down. I can change the resolution of it, which will blur things up. And here is things to optimize and also see. So fast preview, if I turn that on, what that does is that when I'm previewing something, it's going to lower the settings so that I can actually do stuff and see them happening much faster. It may be blurry and kind of choppy, but it will actually, once again, if my machine is chugging, that's a good one, or if I have so much stuff going on. I can toggle transparency grid. So if my object is floating and has no background, this composition just has no background, I can see what the transparency looks like. Toggle mask visibility. So if I have mask and I want to see their outlines. Region of interest. Oh, choose. This one is really good. We'll be talking about this later, which is title and action safe. And what this is that when we make a movie, we want to keep it in certain areas because you don't want to go out here, because then depending on the screen people are watching, you might not see it. So you want to keep it on the interior. And do I want to show RGB, alpha? How do I want to view things? So once again, and take a snapshot of one of whatever frame that I'm on, because I might want to use that as what's called a hold frame, or I might want to just send that to somebody. Hey, this is where I'm at right now, or how does this look? Click that, save it out, send it to somebody. This shows where in my timeline I am. And then down here in my timeline, I have a render queue. So when I start spitting out my movies, they'll pop up into here. Here is my composition folder. So if I have multiple compositions, I can have multiple folders and go inside of each of them. And then anything that is in it, so let's say we're going to do text. Let's go to the text tool. And I'm just going to click right in here. And you see it made an empty text layer. And that is my text. And let's change, I'm just going to double click on that to highlight it and change the font to something. Oh, that's a little hard to read. Let's change that to something a little bit bigger, and then I can change the size, bigger or smaller. Let's fit. So right now, let's go back to our guy here. So you can see now I have this graphics layer inside of my composition. Now I can go to, you see it's kind of pixely. I can go to full, and you see it cleans it up. See? So quarter res, really choppy, a third, half, and full. And this, I'm zoomed in 400%, so it's not really accurate to how clean it would be. You want to look at 100%, that's what it's going to actually look like. And then whenever I have a layer, we'll talk about this, I have all these little options like motion blur and stuff like that, and parenting that I can do with them, and they all have little information in here that I can key and animate that we'll talk about in a minute. The last thing is over to the right is all the menus that you can do. So if I don't want that orange and it's selected, let's change that to a white. There's my foreground, background, or what could be my fill color and my stroke color, the outline around it. So if I actually had a stroke on it, an outline, and then I told it, you know, oh, I'm a double click and I want the stroke to be red, then we have this. Or if I don't want any stroke, I just click with it in the front. See, now this is in the front, the fill. Now the stroke's in the front, none. And now it has no fill color. There's a little no sign going through it. So now it's just the text. And if I wanted to change its alignment, if I wanted to change it to italicized, all caps, small caps, and so there's a fair amount of little things we can do. But that is basically the interface that we'll be using and all the tools.